What is going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of FitBizU. I'm your host, Jill Coleman, and we are starting today on a four-part, what I'm calling business mindset skill set. So mindset skill set, and this is a mindset series for those who are in the beginning stages of building their business or those who consider themselves somewhat of a beginner. And years ago, I saw Marie Forleo on stage. So gosh, this must have been like maybe 2011, 2012. And I remember her saying something very poignant for me at that time because I was just getting started with Chill Fit. She said, mindset barriers or mindset obstacles or mindset challenges tend to be the biggest at the very beginning of starting your journey. And she's like, usually it's the first like 6 to 12 months that you're going to experience most of the biggest mindset challenges. And the reason for that is because you are new to the space. So many of the quote mindset challenges that come up as you're building your business, and I want to define what that means in a second, a lot of these mindset challenges come up because you don't have any experience and you also don't have any success. You don't have a show of evidence that you're good. You don't have all of these wins yet. You don't have a ton of reps yet. You are completely new in the space. And of course, over time, as you start to get reps, you start to rack up wins for clients. You start to rack up and see like, oh, actually what I'm doing makes a difference. And that if I do this thing, I get this outcome. And you need to create that show of evidence. And over time, you start to have fewer and fewer mindset challenges. However, I will say, yes, that is true, but you still have mindset challenges, of course, as you scale because new levels, new devils. But the difference is at a more intermediate level, maybe an advanced level, you kind of recognize it. And you now also have a show of evidence that while you're doing something brand new, you have overcome challenges in the past. And so it's easier for you to go, well, I kind of recognize this. This is it's a discomfort of mine. Maybe I'm scared of doing this thing, or, maybe this is a risk that I'm taking, but I've taken risks in the past and I have evidence that I can trust myself with the outcome. So I'm going to take this next risk. So as you get to like that more intermediate level, that more advanced level, it doesn't mean that you don't have challenges that come up that are purely what we call like mindset challenges. We'll talk about in a second, but really you just recognize it faster and you're able to move through it quicker. And when I say mindset, the reason why I'm doing this, of course, is because we're in the runway of Fitness Business Accelerator. And FBA is my beginner to online coaching program for those in years 0 to 2 of building their online coaching business, or people who have been doing it for a little bit longer, but maybe have never had formal mentorship, or maybe had a business coach that really didn't get them the result, or whatever it is. And for FBA, I noticed that a lot of my students, their biggest challenges, especially in the beginning, are around mindset. Now, when I say mindset, what I mean, my definition of mindset is simply the perspective that I am viewing the situation from. Now, you guys know, if you've been listening to this show for a long time, you know one of my biggest mantras is I can see the situation as a pain, or I can see the situation as a puzzle. That is a mindset shift, isn't it? That's two different ways to see the exact same scenario. I have something come up my business that feels scary, that is an obstacle, is a challenge, something that's frustrating me. I can look at this as like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I can catastrophize, I can spiral, or I can just go, you know what? This is just a problem to be solved. I know there's a solution here, and all I need to do is go and find it. I know that it's a coach, a course, a mentor, a podcast, a book away. I just have to find it. That's a mindset shift, right? You're choosing the perception or the perspective that you are seeing a situation in your business. Now, the reason why I'm even doing this series, yes, because these next 4 episodes, including today, are going to be very important for those who are thinking about joining FBA or who are in the beginning stage of building their business. So that is also why, but more so because I want you guys to succeed. And the reason why most people quit is around mindset. Things aren't happening fast enough. Maybe there's disappointment, there's discouragement, there's frustration. The juice isn't feeling worth the squeeze. All of these sort of what I consider to be more mindset challenges are the main reasons why most people quit their online business. And I don't want that to be you. And so that's why we're doing this, is because it's not just because, we're sitting around talking about mindset. Yes, mindset is interesting and psychology is interesting and all that kind of stuff. But really, at the end of the day, your mindset is your compliance tool. Your mindset is your compliance tool. It's the tool that's going to get you to continue when you want to give up. Is what do I choose in this moment? So today, I want to talk about what we call like imposter syndrome, or just not feeling good enough to be successful. This was something I asked my audience about And I had a lot of people respond that they felt like they just weren't good enough to be successful. They're like, I don't have what it takes. And so it's not the exact same thing as imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is this feeling of, um, it's more like I don't have what it takes and I'm going to be found out. Like I'm not really an expert. I'm kind of like playing expert. And this idea of like, oh, I'm a fraud. I'm going to be found out at some point. I'm not safe to do this because on some level, I'm simply not an expert enough. I'm not good enough. I can't handle the outcome, whatever it is. And so this was really sort of surprising to me. And I don't know that I really necessarily had this in my early days at JillFit. I think for me, one of the tools we're going to talk about today is what's called borrowed confidence. Um, I didn't have success online, obviously, when I started. No one does. But I did have a lot of success in other parts of my life. And Shantae and I talk about this quite a bit, this idea of, especially those of us who played sports growing up. You have this feeling of, I know that I can survive hard things. I have a show of evidence that not everything goes my way all the time, but I can still make it through. I can still manage it. I can still trust myself with the outcome. I can still overcome these hard things. And I think when you have a sports background, or for me, it was a personal training background, I was like, well, I don't know what online business looks like. I mean, but I also trust myself to figure it out because I figured out everything else in my life up to this point. And so imposter syndrome is really the thing that keeps so many people back because they go, if I start taking more action, surely someone is going to find out that I'm not good enough and I'm going to crash and burn. And I want to talk to you today about 4 ways to overcome imposter syndrome. Now, before we get started, like I said, imposter syndrome, in my way of looking at it, is just a choice or a perception that I don't have what it takes and I'm going to get found out. Now, here's the deal, y'all. The hot take is this: no one is good when they start. They only get good through reps. And so that kind of tells me, like, when I think about mindset, and that's why I called it mindset skill set, because all of these things are simply skills. And you guys know that I'm sort of obsessed with this idea of building a skill set. No one starts off being good at this stuff. No one comes out of the womb being like, yeah, I know how to market and sell and write copy and message and all that kind of stuff. Like, you have to learn it. And there's a humility that comes with that, right? There's a humility that comes with that of going, okay, I'm starting from scratch. And so I want to share with you the 4 tools that I believe are at the end all be all. If this is something you struggle with, if you're feeling as though you don't have what it takes, you're not good enough to make it on the internet, let's talk about this. So, number 1 tool is simply ownership. And I remember when I was first getting started online, and this is before I even started the jillfit.com blog, I was a fitness model. And when I was a fitness model, I was so excited about getting into magazines and building my tear sheets. And I was signed with a modeling agency. And I was just like on this path of like, I liked the affirmation. I wanted the perfect body. I wanted to be up on stage winning trophies. I wanted people to see me in magazines. And a lot of it was ego, right? A lot of it was ego. But I remember constantly needing validation. I remember I would email fitness models, I would email magazine editors, I would email like all these people who I saw at this like next level of business. And I remember just thinking, like at the time, oh, if so and so notices me, then like that means I'm good, right? Or if this person responds back and just knows that I exist, or then I'm going to be successful. And I was in a lot of ways really what's the word? I was really sort of banking on someone else telling me that I was good enough to do this. And so ownership is realizing that no one is going to anoint you an expert. You have to just assume the role. You have to just assume the role of ownership. And one of my favorite quotes is from Chase Jarvis. And I heard him say this at a conference. And he said, you have to, it's not fake it till you make it's make it until you make it, right? Make it until you make it. So the idea behind that is like, okay, I can sit here and I can, read more books. I can listen to more podcasts. I can go to more conferences. I can buy more courses. I can watch more trainings. But at the end of the day, all of that continued learning is making me feel like, oh, this is interesting. I love learning. And this is like, I'm drinking from a fire hose and all this stuff is great. But until I stick my neck out and like get in the actual ring, I'm never going to feel qualified. No amount of learning and books and courses is ever going to make me feel qualified. What is going to make me feel qualified is just going, you know what? I got to fucking just do it. Shantae and I talk about this a lot. Like, what are you going to do? Not launch? Like, that's what we're doing here, right? That's what we're doing. We got to put it out there. And I always am reminded, especially for you guys in those beginning stages, that this is the smallest your audience is ever going to be is right now. And so what better time to put it out there, especially because most people following you are already friends and family. Like they're most likely not going to judge you. Maybe that's something you are scared of. We can talk about that. But most of the time they're on your team, right? They want you to do it. You're like, I'm starting my business. Like, that's amazing. I'd love to get a training plan from you or whatever. So this is actually the safest time to build your business is when you're just getting started because mess up. No one expects you to be good, especially in the beginning stages. And what a lot of us do is we compare our like new posts, like maybe we're just getting started on social media, maybe we're just getting started with our email list or our writing or our sales pages. And what we're doing is we're comparing our skill set at a beginner level to someone who's been doing it a decade. Y'all, that's just unfair. So instead, could you humble yourself enough to go, you know what? I know I'm probably not going to be good, but no one starts good. So I'm just going to put out what I feel like is good enough. And this maybe goes to a conversation around all or nothing, which we'll talk about in a second. But maybe I just have to put it out there and just see. Because why not me? That was one of my mantras starting too. I was like, look, yeah, are these people maybe ahead of me? Do they maybe have, I don't know, more connections in the industry than me? Are they, I don't know, maybe more attractive than me? Do they have more money than me? Do they have more support than me? Sure. But at the end of the day, like if I say I want to do this thing, I got to put it out there. Like, why not me? And so at the end of the day, ownership and just going, well, I might not know everything, but I probably know enough to help someone who's two steps behind me, one step behind me. And then over time, of course, you get better. But what I'm seeing is most people are coming into the space expecting to be like a next level, I don't know, like biochemist. And I'm like, no, like, or hormone expert or read the research. That's like, no one expects that of you. If you're new, maybe you just have your own transformation. You want to share that with people. That's fine. That's plenty to get started. And then over time, you have more knowledge and you build your skill set and whatever. And then you take the next step. So ownership is just realizing that no one's going to anoint you an expert. If you're waiting for someone to give you that like pat on the back or to give you that fist bump, you're going to be waiting a really long time. You have to just assume that you're good enough. You have to assume the role and start taking small actions. The second tool to help you overcome imposter syndrome is just getting reps. Now, the thing to realize about getting reps is that building your confidence in an area is what we call area specific, meaning that you can know in one part of your life that you're really good. I have a client right now who has a full-time job. She's an FBA and she has a full-time corporate job she's been doing for a long time, like over a decade. And she even said this on a call a couple weeks ago. She said, I know I'm good when it comes to the thing I do in my corporate job. And I'm like, of course you are. You've been doing this like, I don't know, like 10, 15 years. Of course you're good at it. And she goes, but I have this feeling of, I keep feeling like I'm not good enough online. I'm like, well, why would you feel good enough online? Right? It's a totally different skill set. So this goes to the fact that confidence is area specific, meaning that if you want to become confident in one area, you have to do that thing more. Fortunately, being good at your corporate job, if it's not coaching and online business, is not going to translate into being a good online coach. And I hate that. It sucks. But, it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm good at business. Or maybe I was, when I was getting ready or when I was learning to snowboard, I think it was like 37 when I started snowboarding. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, Jill, like you're pretty fit. You're at the gym. You lift weights. You're pretty athletic. You've done sports in your life. This shouldn't be hard. Y'all, why would snowboarding be easy for anybody? Like maybe it's a little bit easier for me because I can move athletically, but like I was starting from zero, like anyone would. It doesn't translate. The only thing that gets me better at snowboarding is snowboarding more. So for us, confidence is area specific, meaning that in order to feel confident as an online coach, you have to do more stuff as an online coach. Now, I understand that sometimes it can be scary to do a big launch or to charge $10,000 or to like jump in with both feet. So are there ways that we can have more of a mid step that starts getting us a show of evidence and building these reps without it feeling so heavy? So yes, there are certain things you can do, things like beta testing, right? Beta testing, we've done whole episodes on this idea of like, hey, you can offer people something at a discount. And in exchange for that, they give you feedback and you make your program even better. And you kind of like test out your methodology. You can do beta testing. You can have people pay what they want. That was something that I did in the early days too. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have people pay what they want. And people paid anywhere from like $25 up to like $200 for like a call with me or for a coaching, a month of coaching with me or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that makes it feel a little bit lower stakes, makes it feel a little bit lower stakes because I'm like, well, they're paying what they want. It's not like I have to charge $500 or $1,000. They can pay what they want, anything they want, and I will deliver the service. And it was great because I got a ton of reps and I made people feel like they could literally pay whatever they want. There was no shame, there's no judgment. And like I said, somebody paid $25 and some people paid, I think, up to 200 for like a call with me. And at that point, it was kind of like, okay, this feels a little bit better. I can get reps without feeling like the stakes are super high because people literally chose what they wanted to invest. That's a great way to do it. You can also just start making small investments, right? So if you're someone who likes to do a lot of free content, you sign up for free workshops, free webinars, watch people on social media, free challenges, things like that, start making some small investments. There's really something, whether it's FBA or whether it's some other business program, to have access to a mentor, there's something that really builds your confidence when you pay attention. So I do believe that if you have, maybe you're feeling a little scared for a big investment, but you can certainly start making small investments because when you make a small investment, even you make any investment in yourself, you're going to start paying more attention. You're going to feel a little bit more on the hook. Now, I know for a lot of people, spending a lot of money on an investment can feel really scary because like now I'm really on the hook. And what if I fuck it up? And what if I mess up? And what if I don't do it? And what if I fail? And whatever. So make it a small investment to start. And then over time, your investments can get bigger and bigger as the show of evidence that you're good builds. You can also work with friends and family. I know a lot of business coaches are like, um, they'll say, charge your friends and family full price, which is fine. Like eventually you can get to that point. But if you're like, you know what, these people already know me, they're already on my team, just give them a friends and family discount to get started. My first clients were my cousins and my aunts. And I was like, cool, you guys want to get in shape? Let's do it. And it was just a good way for me to get out some of the kinks without it feeling super high risk, right? High stakes. So, friends and family, pay what you want, beta testing, making small investments in yourself so it doesn't feel so scary. In other words, you have to figure out some of these smaller actions that can help you build a show of evidence and build your confidence without having to dive in with both feet, which I think a lot of people think we have to. It's like, oh my God, I'm not good enough to make this business. I'm like, maybe you're not good enough to be a 7-figure business owner quite yet. Why would you be? But you have to make $1,000 before you make 10,000. Just make 10,000 before you make 100,000. Make 100,000 before you make 1,000,000. So start small and build from there. Number 3 way to overcome imposter syndrome is what we call borrowed confidence. So borrowed confidence is looking, and actually this is also called threads of success. My brother Danny talks about this quite a bit on his podcast, this idea of threads of success. And you have to look at places in your life that you have been successful. Now, this goes back to the conversation around sports. While confidence is area specific, meaning you will only feel confident as an online coach if you start doing online coaching, right? That is true. But you have to also be able to look at the other places in your life where you have overcome something hard and had success. So, for example, playing a sport is an example, being a full-time personal trainer is an example, taking the trainer exam, getting up on stage as a fitness competitor. I don't know, maybe, giving birth to a baby, right? Like all of these kind of things. You took a risk and you figured it out. So, why would it be any different when it comes to online business? So, you have to look at the other places where you've had success in your life, and you really have to pull from those experiences. You go, I don't really know if I'm going to be a good online coach. I haven't had that experience yet, but here's 10 other things I've done in my life that have been hard and I've overcome them. Did it always feel pain free? Was it always easy? Maybe not. But I have to look at the ways in which I have overcome challenges in the past or I've learned things I haven't learned. That's why I always talk about the snowboarding on here because it's a skill that I had to learn later in life and I didn't have to learn it. I wanted to learn it. But I always use that analogy because it's the exact same as learning any other skill. Learning a new language, learning a musical instrument. No one starts off not messing up. When I remember the first time I went down that mountain, I was like, I was on my ass more than I wasn't on my ass. But that's how it works. And then lo and behold, literally within, I don't know, 7 to 10 days on the mountain, I'm like turning. And then like now it's fast forward like 5, 6 years. And now I consider myself like an intermediate plus level snowboarder. And so you have to overcome those initial humps, but you have to look at other places in your life where you've had success. And for me, looking at the snowboarding was such a quintessential example of something where you get better the more times you do it. I know it sounds crazy. I mean, it sounds so self evident, yet we forget that that's how these things work. Number four, last way to overcome imposter syndrome is realize that you just have to take the very next step. This is something I see a lot with my beginner students is it's really easy to feel overwhelmed by all the things you're going to have to do. And so many of us will maybe not even take the first step because we then go, "Oh my god, if I do that, then I'm going to have to do that. Then I'm going to have to do that." Right? So for example, I'll give you guys an example. Um Investing in something like FBA. You're like, okay, I'm going to invest in FBA. And, it's maybe my first business investment. And then we go, but now that means that I really have to start this business. There's no excuse for me to start this business. Or Jill's going to be on me about this. She's going to be keeping me accountable. That's really scary. Or, oh my God, is she going to expect me to get on sales calls and ask people for $5,000? Or is she going to expect me to do a $10,000 launch? Or we have these expectations. And instead of just taking the very first step, which is, I'm going to invest in myself to learn business, we make it mean 10 other things. And all of those 10 other things are the things that scare us away. And so you don't have to know what it's like to run a 7-figure company. You don't have to know that. You don't have to know what what it's like to, I don't know, make $100,000. You don't need to know what it's like to have a reel go viral. You don't need to know what it's like to have 500,000 followers. You don't have to know what it's like to speak on a stage. You don't have to know what it's like to do a podcast as a guest. You just have to take the very next step. And as soon as this is a really impactful lesson for me because I tended to do that too for a while. It was like, okay, I want to know exactly what this is going to look like. If I'm going to take the first step, I need to know what the next 10 steps are going to look like. And how many of us have heard that mantra that's like, you just have to take the next step and then the second step will reveal itself. One of the things I always say to my students is like, there's no skipping steps. So for example, you gain confidence through going through all of those intermediate steps. You have to go through all of them. And as you do, you will be ready to speak on a stage when you've done the other 10 things to get there, right? That'll just be the natural next step. So I think instead of spiraling or catastrophizing and going, oh my God, if I'm doing this, that means I'm going to have to do all these big, scary things. It's like, no, you don't have to do those things. Or in fact, when you are in a position where that opportunity presents itself, you'll be ready for it. So I'll give you an example. A lot of my FE students will run their very first lead magnet, and the lead magnet might be a paid webinar or even a free webinar, right? Let's just say a free webinar. And for a lot of them, this is like a vulnerability PR. It's what I call like a vulnerability PR. It's like, this is a brand new skill for me. I've never done a live webinar. Holy shit, I'm going to be on a Zoom call and there are going to be people on there. I'm going to have to teach on this thing. And that can be really scary. But just because you invest in FBA doesn't mean I'm going to be holding a gun to your head and I'm like, you need to do a free webinar next week with like 100 people on it. It's like, no, what you'll probably do is you'll start on social media. Maybe you'll go live once or twice, or maybe you do a Facebook live, or maybe you go live in your stories, or maybe you put face to camera in stories. And then 6 months from now, you're like, okay, I think I'm ready. I've learned a lot. I think I'm ready to do my first free webinar. And instead of getting 100 people, maybe you get 50 people. Now those 50 people, maybe 15 of them show up. And then you go, you know what? This is a little bit scary, but I'm going to do it. And there's 15 people here. I can handle that. Right? So I'm not asking you to get up on stage in front of 1,000 people and give your TED talk. I'm asking you to just do the next thing. And so imposter syndrome really is just a mindset shift into, I actually don't need to be perfect in this. No one's watching me and is going to be grading me on this. I just need to do the very next thing, right? You don't need to know what 10 steps from now is going to look like. All you need to do is look at what's next for you. So for example, if you decide to invest in FBA, the only thing you have to do is show up to a call. That's it. Just show up to the call. That's it. And things will naturally start to evolve and you will take care of the next thing as the next step reveals itself. And this is hard, especially for us type A folks or recovering perfectionists or control freaks. We want to know, okay, if I do this, what's that going to look like? And then what's that going to look like? And then a year from now, what's that going to look like? What's my 5-year plan going to look like? Y'all, I don't fucking know. You don't even know. None of us know. We don't know how the space is going to change. We don't know what direction you're going to. We don't know if your niche is going to change. We don't know if your offer is going to change, right? We don't know any of that. But all of that will be revealed through consistent action. So I know a lot of this stuff feels maybe a little bit nebulous, not as like action packed, but I wanted to give you guys these insights because we talk mindset. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people are like, it's a mindset issue. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean by mindset? What I mean by mindset is the perspective that you choose. Now, one of my other pet peeves with mindset work is that for a lot of folks, mindset is just awareness, right? It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, Jill told me that, borrowed confidence is like an interesting idea, right? Borrowed confidence, quote, makes sense. Or, confidence being area specific makes sense. And so a lot of these mindset, philosophies or mindset little quips, they make sense, right? And that's why we like it. We're like, oh, it totally makes sense, right? We feel like we're getting some kind of download or feel like we're getting some kind of insight. The problem is that for so many people, they stay in the insight part of mindset. They stay in the insight part of mindset and they don't allow for those mindset insights to change their behavior. So 90% of mindset work is awareness, quote unquote, that makes sense. The last 10% is how do you choose to do something different when the rubber meets the road based on that insight? So when I say, get reps, confidence is area specific, try beta testing, try pay what you want. At some point, you got to rip the Band-Aid off and try pay what you want. You got to try beta testing. Like at some point, you have to allow for these mindset insights that are so interesting to change your behavior because that's what changes your outcome, right? The behavior change, the action is the thing that changes your circumstances, not sitting around thinking about it, not sitting around reading books about it, not sitting around listening to this show about it. It's taking this and going, okay, I'm going to try, pay what you want. Fuck it. Why wouldn't I? Jill said I should try it. Let's go. And then let's have the full experience and let's allow let's allow it to fill us up with that confidence that we need. And over time, you rinse and repeat until we're someone who doesn't struggle with imposter syndrome anymore, right? All right, that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for being here. That is episode 1 of 4. If you are not on the FBA interest list, you can go to the link in the show notes. We're going to be opening the doors for the interest list folks here in just a couple weeks. If you need anything or you have any questions specifically about that program, feel free to shoot me a DM at JillFit. And I will see you guys on the next episode. Have a good one. Bye.